And we're glad you could come back with us. As we said before, we got a chance to talk to City Councilwoman Veronica Shoemaker right here in the studio. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to our studio City Councilwoman Ward 2, Veronica Shoemaker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here. I have not been here for over a year, and I feel elated this afternoon. Well,
it's not your fault, I tell you, because the show really gets booked out a lot, and we've talked about getting you back here, and
right.
You've been real cooperative in coming back here on the show.
Finding the time was my problem, and your problem was your schedule.
Yeah.
So we were both kind of out of place all the time.
But I think I'm a busy person, but I couldn't be as busy as you. You know, you're running your florist business, you're a city councilwoman, you're on all types of boards. And how do you manage to do all of these things and still maintain your upbeat personality?
Mr. Pitts, my time management is very good. Mm-hmm. I can manage my time. If I ever manage that, then I can continue to move forward. Mm-hmm. It's very important to know just how much time you can spend on a project, how well it's organized. Mm-hmm. Organization and time is my masterpiece.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because when I was a young lad, my mother once told me that the difference between, in many cases, a successful person and an unsuccessful person is that the successful person has a very good handle on managing their time. Would you agree to that?
I most certainly do, because in other words, if you know it takes you maybe 20 minutes to work this project out, 20 minutes for that one, if you need to be somewhere, be on time, because you have another schedule to make. And a successful person does have time management kind of wrapped up, mm-hmm. and they can move with any project that they want to get involved in, mm-hmm. and the end results, the fruition of it, is a success.
You know, I've been doing this show for over 5 years, and mm-hmm. some people may not realize that. And I've gotten a chance to interview a lot of people. I've seen, I like to say, I've seen a million faces.
You sure have.
But in recent times, particularly in the last 2 weeks, the last week I got a chance, as you may have seen, I got a chance to interview Horace Barrett. He's a funeral home director, been in business over 30 years. And then here I'm getting a chance to interview you, who's been a florist for over 27 years, and you've been involved in politics, I guess, you know, since the end of time. I know you've been a city councilwoman for like 4 or 5 terms. How many?
No, this is my third 4-year term.
Yeah, and I guess I've said all that to say that I'm fortunate enough to get a chance to sit down and talk to what will be legends in our community, and our current living legends in our community. And you're sort of an icon, particularly in the area of politics. Does that put a lot of pressure on you, having that kind of stature in your political?
Well, yes, it does, because people are forever watching you, watching me. They're watching my presentations. They're watching the productivity that I produce, mm-hmm. when I'm doing a project. They look for the end results, and they see how important it is as an elected official to make something happen. So I think once my ending of my political career will have ended, mm-hmm. You can look back and see the monuments, mm-hmm. of Veronica Shoemaker as a city council person, as a civic leader, as a person who worked hard to make this community a better place to live.
Would you say that behind that beautiful smile there's a shrewd business lady and a shrewd politician who knows what's going on?
Oh, yes, it is. There's a smile, but behind that there's another cover.
Because you don't stay in office that long without being able to take care of the business.
Right, but that you have to be that way, and of course you must be, as many people say, you're so positive about it, and when you come after us, you don't come laughing or grinning. You come with a very sincere and a positive approach, and you know it can be done, so let's do it.
Now, in your last election, you won by a landslide again.
Yes.
The community turned out a substantial amount, voted you back into office. Mm-hmm. Has that become like an old hat to you, where
no,
you got into cruise control, or are you still always working hard?
You don't get in cruise control. You don't get in the gear in the seat and drive 30 miles an hour. You got to pick up 85, 90, 100, 200 miles an hour to get something done. Mm-hmm. And when you go back to be reelected, there's projects, and they're constantly watching you. And when I ask to return to office, I have a plan, or I'm working on a project that must be completed before I leave office. And I can see all of these things taking place now. And I would get into those if we had the time, but we take the Palmetto Extension, we take the Velasco Village, we talk about the street lightning districts. We talk about the redevelopment of downtown Fort Myers, Florida, and all of these things was part of my agenda when I went on the council. And right now, as I drive through Fort Myers, I smile. When I come through Dean Park, I smile. And of course, those were actually hands-on. You know, I'm a council person that don't sit at the desk, stay in the office. I go out in the community, walk the streets, meet the people, touch them, because I want to be a people's person.
Yeah, that's very important in politics. Let's talk about some issues that have been happening over the last few years that we can kind of get your opinion on, since we rarely get a chance to get you in the studio.
Okay.
And maybe see how you stack up in terms of some of the more particular issues that are going on in the Dunbar community, the African American community. There's been a lot of talk about getting a high school built in Dunbar. Nothing has been done up until this point. Are you in favor of having a high school?
Yes, I am. And let's be realistic about this. Once these schools have gone back to, once the desegregation court order has been lifted, we will not have a high school in our community. And if you look around at what's taking place now, most of the schools are being built in the other parts of Lee County. Well, if we do not get a high school in the Dunbar community, that is, and I say Dunbar sincerely, then we're going to be at a loss. For 15 years, we never had a school in the inner city until we worked hard to get the Colonial Elementary School. And that is a real reason why I'm really working hard and wanting to be on the council to make sure that Palmetto extension go all the way over from Dunbar, that's Martin Luther King Boulevard, over to Colonial, where we can interwoven there, where our children can walk to school, where it can be truly a city school. By the way, that school sits on Shoemaker's Lane out there at Colonial Elementary. So actually that corridor that we're working on now at Palmetto and Michigan Avenue will eventually go from Palm Beach Boulevard straight on over to Colonial, all the way over to 6 Mile Cypress.
Let's talk about Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Yes, this is very important.
There's been a lot of talk about the lack of economic development on Martin Luther King Boulevard. We still are talking about a shopping center that's pretty much 99% here, but people are still waiting to see some dirt broken. And you've been outspoken about the LeadCo as a developer, and maybe they could be moving a little faster, whatever the case. Why don't you quickly update our community?
Well, let me talk about that a little bit. Where we were stalled at when the anchor person, the anchor tenant, withdrew. Not that we have over $4 million ready to go. But I guess everybody is waiting for, all the anchors are waiting to see where the widening of Martin Luther King is going. What I'd like to see done, I want to get to the shopping center, and I want to talk back about, I'd like to see a ad hoc committee put together. Not the same old committee the same blood that we have had. It's a lot of new young men such as yourself and others that are here now that have a lot of, we have engineers, we have designers, we have urban land use planners, minorities and whatnot. I'd like to see a commercial district developed to meet the widening of Martin Luther King. The committee must come together and design it. When I went on the council in 82, 83, 84, what happened, I was able to get a committee of attorneys, designers, engineers, doctors, landowners, helping me to design downtown Fort Myers.
And then you think that type of committee can
do the same thing for Martin Luther King, because it worked for downtown and it's still working. We have all the development, we have the Centennial Park, we have the harbor side, all of these things. The waterfront was what we were dealing with, and the redevelopment and bringing business back downtown. So actually the plan has worked out. And now, since that worked well, I would like to chair a committee appointed by the mayor to serve as the commercial, for a commercial district in economic development. That means bringing in businesses, putting up buildings, designing buildings, because people are ready to move. And when they start the acquisition of the properties within the next 6 to 8 months, Mr. Pitts, a lot of the people have nowhere to go. If I had another 4 rooms a building, square feet of building. I could rent them all right now.
Speaking of commercial, one of the things that make the commercial development go is affordable housing in that area.
Right.
Now, a lot has been said in recent times about the Fort Myers Housing Authority and the way that it has been run. Of course, we know that it failed the HUD audit, getting 38 out of a possible 100 points. A lot of people look towards the director of the board of directors there, which was Bruce Strayhorn. And also we got Charles Smith that was in that whole thing. Now, there's a lot being done to try to move Bruce Strayhorn from the leadership position. And I know you come out and you've been in favor of Bruce Strayhorn as well as the City Councilwoman Ann Knight, Dr. Ann Knight. Why are you, what are some of the things that you are so positive about with Bruce Strayhorn running the Housing Authority?
All right, first of all, I want you to know that I am the first person to want to see the best possible person there to make sure changes are made. 10 years ago, you couldn't even go in the public housing development. 10 years ago, there was no money at all for no programs. 10 years ago, no police department had no money, thanks to Chief Hart, thanks to Bruce Strayhorn, thanks to Flossie Riley, and thanks to the City Council. We turned that whole development around. Now, Fort Myers is not the only troubled housing authority. I was just looking at the Chicago about this one that they just turned around, and now the developers want that piece of choice land in Chicago. That's in today's paper, where they are moving in now to take that because it was the rich on one side and the poor on the other side. So now the rich is trying to take over a public housing development. And but what I'm saying about Fort Myers, and I'll answer that for you, I would prefer seeing someone that has the time. You can move people, but that's not a paying job. You don't get paid.
But do we, as it relates to that, do you feel that we have the best people in place right now to run the Fort Myers Housing?
Yes, we do, right now.
We'll move on from there. Let's talk a little bit about Chief Hart, the Chief of Police, first African-American Chief of Police in Fort Myers, and so on and so forth. What type of job do you think he's done so far?
He has done an outstanding job. He is continuing to do a very good job. He is a person that finds the necessary funds, the resources, and whatever is needed to continue to keep our city safe and our community healthy, keep our young people off of the streets. All of the new programs, Chief Hart has turned a lot of corners and changed a lot of things.
Do you think our current administration, particularly the new mayor, Bruce Grady, do you think that he finds Chief Hart to be as satisfactory as you find him?
Yes.
Jackie Hubbard, first African-American City of Fort Myers attorney. She's resigned now. She's going to do 1 year consulting work with the city, but basically she's out of there. Many have said that maybe she didn't go under her own cognizance, that maybe she was forced out by the new administration, namely Bruce Grady. Do you, being on the inside, should we think that way?
I'll tell you how I think about it, and I don't mind saying it. For the last 4 years, it has always been a threat to Jackie. Even before the Mayor Wilbur Smith left, he was there, so he didn't listen to those, oh, we got 3 votes, we got 3 votes. Okay, that was always there. So when the new administration came in, well, naturally the same people that were there, maybe 1 or 2 left. So actually she had some help. And when you're threatened all the time, you can't afford to do a good job. And Mrs. Hubbard is a good attorney. A very good attorney. So I know she is.
So basically she's not leaving on her own?
Well, she has some help.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
To make a decision.
Okay, you. Been in office long enough, gotten all types of experience over 3 terms. Many are saying that you will be the more likely candidate to be the next mayor of Fort Myers.
That is very true. In fact, tell the truth, Mr. Pitts, I have had a meeting with a large group of people from the city of Fort Myers, not Ward 1, not Ward 2, all 5 wards have come to me already. In fact, they came to me on the eve of the last election.
So there's a lot of interest in the community for you to be the next mayor.
And they could not get me on the ballot. They even went to the supervisor of election and asked him, is there any way we could write in Veronica as the new mayor?
Is that the last election?
The last election, 6 months ago.
Okay, let's talk about the next election.
Well,
Seems like you'll be primed for that.
I
Bottom
will
line,
be ready.
yes or no, will you run for mayor?
Yes, I will. This is my last big leap. And that's the leap that I'm going to be sitting there year 2000.
You heard it right here on Leap This Live.
Yes, yes.
Veronica Shoemaker will be running for the mayor of Fort Myers.
That's right, and I will be the one that will walk you through the gates in year 2000.
I know you've overcome a lot of things over the years, all right, as it relates to race. Let's talk about your chances as being mayor. First of all, let's talk about a study that was done by the University of Michigan that came out a few months ago that cited Fort Myers as the most segregated city in the South. First of all, do you agree to that study? Do you think that's true?
Well, yes, it's true. And I'll tell you why it's true. Because when you look at the pattern of how we live and what happens, and if you walk the wards, if you walk the city streets, you walk the lines, you do see that kind of segregation. However, we have come a long ways. Remember now, I was born here, so I know the pattern of segregation. It wasn't as bad as it was, but yet it's still, there's pockets of segregation. We have a lot of pockets.
How does that segregated community, Fort Myers, impact on the way you would be viewed as a candidate for mayor? Do you find that it would be a lot more difficult for an African American to be elected under
right now? I think that I have proven myself. What have happened to me when I was running for office, remember, I was the first black elected, but remember, I was elected at large, and that was 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, at large in a segregated, racist town that wasn't ready to accept a black. Because they had they had at-large voting. So I had to break those barriers to get in there in order to make sure that I was going to be inside the gate. Now that's what happened with me being elected at-large back in 82, 83.
Even though the Fort Myers community is a very segregated community, do you think that the white community now has come to the point where they're looking for the best and most experienced candidate, regardless of race?
That's true. I know that for a fact, and everywhere I'm going, and I tell you, this committee that's coming together for me is 70% one color, one section, and 30% the other, and it's just a matter of time for the whole group coming together.
70% white, 30% black, or vice versa?
Well, it's all together.
Okay, we'll leave it.
We leave it alone.
We talk about running for
but that is my goal, and I will certainly, because see, when you're running for the mayor, you have to raise money.
That was
so
my next
very
question.
Possibly I will have to start opening up a treasure, get a treasure. Now, and start to raising dollars.
Let's talk about timetables, because a lot of us, including myself, we know that you have about 2 more terms left on this.
2 more years.
2 more years.
Yeah, I will have to go those other years. I will seek my seat to finish out my 2-year term.
That will be 1990
next year.
Okay, and then
I will take those 2 years, but in the meantime, those years will give me more time to work towards the mayor's race, plus raise monies, and that is it. I will be sitting up in City Hall on the 4th floor, if it's there, in the year of 2000. It's time for the go over the change. We have come so far. We've done a lot. And I know that I have the experience, the qualifications, and I have certainly learned my lesson, and I know how to be a mayor for the city of Fort Myers.
And I think they'll do a lot for the city of Fort Myers.
It will.
To have a person like yourself with that experience.
I know that my experience have led me to this.
How about values, integrity, and those types of things that
that's
we look
what I've
at?
kept.
Do you think we would have to assume that your opponent would be the reigning mayor, Bruce Grady, who would probably run again for election? How would you stack up? What would be the big difference between the two of you?
Big difference? I couldn't say it right now because I have not seen he has not completed his first 12 months in the office. However, being on the council with him for 8 years, I would have to continue to monitor. See, when you become mayor, there's a little difference than being a city council. So at this point in time, we have to give the person the opportunity to make sure you're a mayor of the city of Fort Myers and not a mayor of special interest.
Now, a lot of things have happened in recent times as it relates to the city and the county. A lot of people have made progress, minorities in this area, but when we see studies that came out, particularly studied by, as it related to the news press as well as the community voice when they did their study, on the Lee County government and its lack of hiring and promotion of minorities and women in key positions, particularly supervisory positions and management positions, the Lee County government. And I had Don Steelware here, who's the county administrator, on the show to talk about the poor hiring of minorities by Lee County government. So we see other people making a lot of progress, but we see that still that institutionalized, what I could consider racism. How did you feel when you read that study?
Well, I tell you what bothered me the most about it. First of all, I know it's a lack of representation. Where we are losing at, and I don't know for the life of me why that there is no persons of color that will take the initiative to go out and seek those seats on the on the county commission, on the Lee County School Board, on the mosquito control, on the hospital board, and on the fire board. We must get a voice in that on those policy-making bodies, the hospital board. So that's our problem.
So is it fair to say if we don't have any diversity and minority representation on those boards, we're going to continue to have these same stories come out and we're never going to get any progress because there's nobody?
I think so. And I know so, because really what has happened to us in the city of Fort Myers, when we make a policy, we as elected officials make a policy, and that's what we are. We want to question you. Why haven't you hired a minority? How are you doing this? And that's how we were able to get Jackie Hubbard. We were able to get Glenda Jeters. We were able to get many of them. But it's not our fault because they don't stay. But once they're there, they are supposed to be productive and be able to maintain their jobs. So with that in mind, your elected officials are really responsible for what is taking place. And as far as representation, I ran for the county commissioner. It's not that hard to run. I ran at large. The
Stars Complex, one of the most publicized development in the Dunbar community in recent times, multi-million-dollar recreation center. I happen to be a swim instructor over there.
I know.
Get a chance to work with those wonderful kids from the Hope House.
Amen.
That you were a part of.
Yes.
And but there's a lot of talk about the future of the Stars Complex in terms of the financing that's put together to keep it running. Should the people in Dunbar be concerned about that, or do you feel
I think they should be. In this budget session, we're coming up with our budget sessions. I'm going to recommend $500,000 to be placed in the budget for the Stars Complex operation. That will be my recommendation to the Finance Committee when we start our budget hearings, and that is like, this is July. We should start very soon.
What are the chances of that being approved?
It will be approved.
How about...
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
We're going to approve that. That's a must because of the fact that it takes funds to operate that facility, and we can't wait for a grant. We can't wait for this, and all of our money is tied up in it.
The Imaginarium. Hands-on, recreation, park, something for kids.
Yes.
Was it a good idea, bad idea?
Good idea.
Where is it going from here?
All the way up. But remember one thing, it's in Dunbar.
It's in Dunbar.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I recognize that it's in Dunbar. NAACP. New president, Winston Williams. Former president, Willie Battle. Very controversial. You've been in the paper, going back and forth with Winston Williams. Where's that NAACP headed?
Straight up.
What's your opinion on Winston Williams as the president?
I feel Mr. Williams could be a good president if he would let his executive board work with him.
How important is the NAACP to our community?
It is very important. Without the NAACP, I would not be sitting on the city council.
Ben Hook.
Oh, I was there. However, it was the lawsuit that the city council, that the NAACP filed in order to bring about single-member districts. So we brought about a lot. Our NAACP, Mr. Pitts, I have to tell you this, if we don't get that to moving, we're going to be sitting right here looking like we look this very day. We're going to regress instead of progress. When the NAACP is down, our community is down. Our people are suffering. Read the paper, how many people getting fired.
Okay.
I'm tired of being the NAACP.
How did we get in that position in the first place here locally?
Which way?
With the NAACP being down.
Division. Division.
What do the citizens out there need to know in terms of what do you recommend that they do to get more involved in such organizations at the NAACP?
What we need to do as a city of people that are members, we need to call our own mass meeting and not wait on all these top-heavy people that we have to look at and say, well, you can't do this unless you do this. The people that makes up a branch or chapter are the people that should say, hey, let's get a committee of people that belongs to the Lee County branch. Let's call a meeting. Let's see, can we find out why our branch is down? Why aren't we moving together? What's going on? And who is the problem? And wherever the problems are, let's eliminate them.
Okay. Hope Garden, on the corner of Edison Avenue and
very good news, I can tell you
Hope
about.
Garden. What's that intersection there?
Hope Garden and Ford Street.
In Ford Street, near Franklin Park Elementary School. It was a good idea. I'm saying it was a good idea. Maybe you got some new news for me. I think we're going to build about 33 single-family homes.
32.
32 single-family homes, and in recent times it seems like that has come to a halt. A lot of controversy on where the money went and when is it going to be developed.
The money is still there. Quickly, the money is there, and what's taking place is that now they're looking at a new model, and I believe within the next 90 days you will see the first home sitting on Hope Gardens. In fact, that's just how fast it's moving.
That sounds like really good news.
See, HUD is in the affordable housing brackets now, and they are coming in here, and of course we're just now talking to some persons that are ready to move into here in Fort Myers to build the Hope Gardens. And in the next 90 days, as I say, you may see a house in.
Got about 1 minute left in the show. The Clinton administration recently approved of a new welfare reform where you're going to have about 3 years that you're going to be on welfare and then you're off the welfare. How do you think that's going to impact a lot of the low-income people in our communities?
It's already impacting them. What we're doing now is we're taking the low-income families and we're putting them to work. We have now hired about 12 women at Hope House that had never worked before, that are welfare recipients, and guess what? They're off of welfare and they are purchasing homes and they have become self-sufficient. We are so happy with everybody. In fact, one has just bought a condominium. I said, oh, does Hope House pay that kind of money?
Well, time certainly does fly when you're having fun. Veronica Shoemaker, City Councilwoman, soon to be Mayor of Fort Myers.
That's it.
Can you promise us that we'll get you back here on the show during your campaign?
You will have me back.
And here to give us some update on the Hope Garden project.
Yes, it is, because that's something going to happen within 90 days.
Okay. It's been a pleasure having you here on the show.
Thank you very much.
And
I enjoy being here with you.
It's my pleasure.
And you keep the good work.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. As the saying always says, for those who say it can't be done, they are usually interrupted by those who are doing it. Join us next Tuesday right here on Lee Pitts Live.